The wind on KL9 howled like a living thing, driving needles of ice across the shattered plateau. Dr. Elias. Thorne pulled his coat tighter and cursed the survey team that had dragged him out here. He was a medic, not a xenobiologist, and certainly not an explorer. His job was patching up humans on the frontier colonies, not poking around abandoned alien ruins for curiosity's sake. But the distress beacon had been unusually strong clear modulation. Almost deliberate, and the colony governor had insisted someone with medical training come along in case they found survivors. Elias had drawn the short straw. The ruins were older than anything human charts recorded. Towering spires of black glass shot through with veins of dull green light, half collapsed under centuries of glacial pressure. The survey team fanned out with scanners while Elias trailed behind, more interested in staying warm than in alien archaeology. Then he heard it. A low, rattling growl, half pain and half threat, echoing from a side chamber buried under a fallen buttress. The team leader waved everyone back and raised his rifle, but Elias pushed past him. "Hold fire," he snapped. "That doesn't sound like a machine." Inside the chamber, slumped against a wall of cracked obsidian, was a creature the size of a tiger, but built like nothing on Earth. Its body was sleek and powerfully muscled, covered in short, midnight blue fur that shimmered faintly even in the dim light. The head was broad and leonine, with a short mane of stiff black bristles around the neck. 6 legs for 4 locomotion. 2 smaller forelimbs folded against the chest, tended in claws that could have shredded armor. But the creature wasn't threatening anyone. It lay on its side, ribs heaving in shallow, labored breaths. Its golden eyes, slitted like a cat's, were clouded with pain. Dark streaks of some viscous fluid oozed from sores along its flanks and neck. The team leader muttered, "Looks like some kind of guard beast. Probably left behind when the builders bugged out." Elias knelt slowly, ignoring the rifles aimed past his shoulder. He'd seen enough wounded animals and wounded people to recognize suffering when it stared back at him. "Hey there," he said softly, the way he'd once spoken to frightened children in colony clinics. The creature's ears twitched, and it bared fangs the length of his fingers, but the growl that followed was weak. He pulled out his med scanner and ran it over the body. The readings came back in a cascade of red warnings. Parasitic infestation. Unknown species. Multiple organ systems compromised. Neurotoxin buildup. Estimated time until death, less than 12 hours. Elias looked at the sores again. Inside each one, pale segmented bodies, writhed larval forms of something that had burrowed deep and was feeding as it matured. The team leader said, "Doc, we can't do anything for that thing. We should put it down. Clean kill." "It's suffering." Elias didn't answer right away. He was staring at the creature's eyes. Despite the pain, there was intelligence there. Not human intelligence, maybe, but awareness. Recognition. It knew it was dying, and it was afraid. "No," Elias said finally. "We're taking it back to the ship." The protests were immediate, dangerous alien organism, risk of contamination. Violation of quarantine protocols, but Elias had spent 15 years on the frontier, saving lives that regulations said weren't worth saving. He overrode them with the calm authority of someone who had long ago stopped caring about paperwork. They sedated the beast with 3 times the normal dose for a terrestrial big cat, loaded it onto an anti-grav sled, and hauled it back to the colony's small medical frigate. For 4 days, Elias barely slept. The parasites were unlike anything in the xenobiology database. They had nested in the lymphatic chains and were pumping out a paralytic toxin that would eventually stop the heart. Surgery to remove them all would kill the host faster than the infestation would. So Elias improvised. He cultured samples of the parasite in a sealed biochamber, then used gene-editing vectors originally designed for human. Retroviral therapy to rewrite a harmless colony bacteriophage to attack the parasite's outer membrane. It was reckless. It was borderline insane. It might kill the creature outright. But doing nothing definitely would. He flushed the modified phage into the beast's bloodstream through an intravenous line. He'd rigged into the thick vein along one forelimb. Then he waited. On the 5th day, The creature's fever broke. The sores began to close. The labored breathing eased. On the seventh day it opened its eyes and looked at Elias without the haze of pain. It studied him for a long moment, head tilted, then slowly, deliberately, extended one massive paw and rested it gently on his knee. The survey team wanted to keep it sedated and ship it to a proper xeno research facility. Elias refused. The creature had started following him around the medbay on unsteady legs, eating the synthesized protein he offered, even allowing him to run daily scans without protest. He named it Sable, because the fur really did look like polished midnight. Weeks turned into months. The colony on KL9 was small, mostly miners and support staff. And word spread quickly about the alien cat the doc had saved. Children came to stare through the medbay viewport. Miners left slabs of real meat outside the door when they could spare it. Sable grew stronger. The six-legged gait became fluid and silent. The intelligence Elias had glimpsed sharpened into something unmistakable. Sable learned to open doors by watching the motion sensors, learned which drawers held treats, learned to bring Elias's coat when the daily windstorms began. And then the raiders came. They were human exiles from the Outer Rim, hardened by years of piracy. Their corvette dropped out of hyperspace without warning, disabled the colony's orbital defenses with an EMP burst, and landed a strike team to loot the mineral stockpiles. The fighting was brief and brutal. The colony militia was outnumbered and outgunned. By the time the raiders reached the central habdome, most resistance had collapsed. Elias was in the medbay, trying to evacuate the wounded, when the door exploded inward. 3 raiders in patched armor stepped through, rifles raised. Everyone on the floor. The leader barked. "Hands where I can see them." Elias raised his hands slowly. The wounded behind him whimpered. There was no way out. Then a sound like rolling thunder filled the corridor outside. Sable had been in the observation lounge, watching snow fall against the dome. He had seen the corvette descend, seen armed figures spill out, seen Ilias's face through the viewport when the alarms began. Now he moved. He came through the shattered doorway in a fluid bound that no one had time to track. The first raider went down with a crushed helmet before he could scream. The second managed half a burst from his rifle rounds, sparking harmlessly off Sable's dense fur before. A swipe of claws opened his armor from collar to belt. The leader tried to backpedal, firing wildly. Sable took 3 hits center mass, staggered for half a heartbeat, and then lunged. The man's rifle clattered away. The fight was over in seconds. Silence fell, broken only by the distant sounds of the raid collapsing. The remaining pirates, hearing reports of an alien monster tearing through their squad, broke and ran for their ship. The corvette lifted off minutes later, trailing smoke and panic. The colony was saved. In the aftermath, no one talked about shipping Sable away anymore. Years later, travelers passing through KL9 would hear the story. How an abandoned alien beast, left to die by its own kind, was saved by a single human who refused to walk away. How that beast returned the favor 100-fold, standing guard over an entire colony, and if they were lucky, they might catch a glimpse of a midnight blue, a shape moving silently along the dome perimeter at night, 6 legs carrying it with impossible grace. Golden eyes watching the stars as if remembering old masters who had fled and never returned. Sable never left Ilias's side again, and Elias, for the rest of his days, never once regretted ignoring protocol to save a life that no regulation had ever contemplated. Some debts, after all, can only be measured in loyalty deeper than species, older than worlds.